Many years ago, I became a project manager because my boss thought I was a good systems engineer. At the time, this was absolutely normal, and in fact, the project management was called the accidental profession. After finishing my first project, I was sent to a project management course. The course was led by two instructors, one teaching the technical stuff and the other focusing on the management side. The latter, who was one of my company's executives, explained that now, as project manager, I should change my perspective. I should start looking at projects from a managerial point of view. With time and effort, I made some progress. I acquired a decent management approach, and I think I was also able to transfer this perspective to my colleagues, clients, and students. But it took me 30 years to realize that the project manager technical background is not the biggest problem. The real issue is that project management methods and tools has been built up by accidental project managers. I mean that all the techniques we try to apply have been designed by former engineers, people like me, who began their project management career with a near zero level of business awareness. Reality is that you can't really forget your background. And indeed, as a project management instructor, I loved to demonstrate how to calculate a critical path and to explain all the earned value formulas. It gave me a great satisfaction. And this excited my students too, because most of them had an engineering background. Unfortunately, all this technical stuff counts almost nothing when you are trying to drive a project to success. Reality is that nobody cares about how you manage a project. Agile, waterfall, hybrid, these are just fashionable words. The only thing that matters is your ability to create value for project stakeholders. A project can be a mess, finish late, cost more than planned, deliver a different product than originally planned. But if the outcome creates value for stakeholders, the project is a success. During my career, I've met a few great project managers, people who can steer any kind of project to success. These professionals never considered getting a project management certification, and I doubt they would even pass the exam. There is a simple test to discover if you are in presence of a good project manager. You just ask them to give you a high-level view of the project. Many will show you a Gantt chart or a Kanban board. Don't waste time with them. Focus instead on the very few project managers who talk like a Pulitzer-winning journalist. In journalism, good reporters ask the 5W questions: what, why, who, when, where, to address the key points that every story should tell. Great project managers use a slightly modified version of this technique. For project managers, the first W question is why does the project exist? There is a reason if a project is approved, and this reason has to do with some kind of discomfort. Maybe a problem to solve, or possibly an opportunity to exploit. If the reason behind the project sounds convincing, it's time to move to the second W. Which benefits are expected from the project realization? Benefit is business jargon for value. A project is successful only if it creates value for stakeholders. Higher the value created and bigger the success. Greater the number of stakeholders who share the value and bigger the success. Do you think the project could deliver enough value to justify it? If you think so, let's move to the third W. Who is impacted by the project? We have already verified that the people who got the idea of the project will get benefits. But there is a caveat. The project is successful only if it creates value for all stakeholders. Listing all of them is key to manage the project so that it creates value for all stakeholders. A successful project is not a zero-sum game where there are winners and losers. A successful project is a win-win game. Well, if you think stakeholder management won't be a problem, we can look at the fourth W. What is the project supposed to deliver? It's only now that it makes sense to look at the products or services that the project should deliver. These deliverables are the instruments that will create the value which every stakeholder is expecting. Deliverable specification can be constrained by technology readiness or by availability limitations. It is worth noticing that a poor project manager would start by answering question number 4 and then move directly to the fifth W, which is when is the outcome expected? At this point, we are entering the realm of time constraints, where deadlines can limit the ability of the project to create value. Yeah, life is difficult. To bet on a new project, you need a story that gives good answers to all the 5 questions. The 5 W questions are so important that the Project Management Institute even invented the name for the document which tells their story. They called it Project Charter. Once you got a project charter, managing a project is just common sense. I know. Even if the project story is clear, you still must do some planning. But planning just means making a list of what the project must deliver. And yes, who will perform the different tasks, how long it will take, how much it will cost, and what events could influence the project. Nothing that requires more than pencil and paper or a simple software. And yes, you also need to execute tasks, control how they progress, and for sure you will have to take some corrective actions. But again, for the average project, this is all but complicated. Let's be honest, project management is simpler than consultants want you to believe. Managing a project doesn't require sophisticated methods and tools. To successfully manage a project, all you need is a project mindset. How do you develop a project mindset? The honest answer is that there are no shortcuts. It's a process that requires time. You learn by trial and errors. You learn by managing projects. And in between your projects, why don't you enjoy the playlist I prepared about how to develop your project mindset? Have fun!